So I was watching this video with a man, Doug Batchelor, who held a presentation about creationism and evolution. And his point was basically that evolution is a hoax, and that the only answer to the complexity and plurality we see in nature, in ourselves and in the universe, must be the creation of an intelligent designer. Batchelor's point, of course, reaches out to people, many people. It does so because it corresponds with the ideas of, and sounds good in the ears of, many conservative, non-symbolic religious people. The problem here is not that there are religious people and that they feel heard and understood when someone speaks to them in a rhetorically capable way, and that religion and evolution is publicly discussed. The problem occurs when men and women like this man starts to claim that what they do and say is scientific, or even worse, that what they preach about is somehow above science, and that their obviously religious-based standpoints and issues has a higher purpose or value, and can therefore be seen as true, in one way or another. So Batchelor starts off by saying that a single cell is far more complex than New York City in midday with all its electronics, taxis, elevators, etc. He is probably correct. He continues by saying how extremely complex a larger multicellular organism like the human body is. He is definitely correct. He then states that such an extremely advanced body of life can't develop by pure chance, and that it is like putting a bomb on a junkyard and hoping to get a house when it explodes. And guess what? He is, if he puts it in exactly that way, absolutely correct. What he does not seem to realize, though, is that natural selection and the evolution, as an effect of it, is the absolute opposite of random chance. And if he would have looked into the very basics of the driving forces behind development of species, he would have understood that. Batchelor actually thinks, like many other creationists or people from the intelligent design movements, that random chance is somehow the opposite and the other alternative from creation. The candidate solutions to the riddle of improbability is, as Professor Richard Dawkins put it, not as often implied creation and chance. They are creation and natural selection. Natural selection basically means non-random selection through random differences in individuals, and that applies on the absolute first chemical substance who managed to develop the capability to replicate itself and become more common, to the advantages of having a brain with billions of collaborating brain cells, with the ability to create the extraordinary advantages, feelings, speech, and morality that is present in the human mind. I mean, no biologist has ever suggested that chance is a solution, given the high levels of improbability we see in living organisms. How to escape from chance, though, is what any theory of life must solve. Evolution and its driving forces have been proven so many times, on so many places in different times, and by so many different people, who has just looked at the overwhelming and obvious evidence. They haven't done what the man in the video had, Batchelor, which is to compare the Big Bang with an explosion that causes a house to be built. The irony of that claim, that he and so many others do, is of course that slow, gradual process is the opposite of an explosion, whereas a god, or an intelligent design such as the one in the Bible and its subsequent creation is, in fact, an explosion, if you will, in species and life. So really, to bring a creator into the picture vastly overcomplicates the world, in an attempt to make it simpler for people who won't, often without any valid reasons, accept science. He continues, Doug Batchelor, by stating that the relationships between species are too perfect to have developed over time. It is basically the argument of irreducible complexity. Irreducible complexity is basically an argument from intelligent design movements that biological systems in nature are too complex to have evolved from simpler systems. There are some classic examples with certain parts of living organisms, like the beautiful bacterium flagellum and such. Of course, prove him wrong as well. But this time he, as I said, talks about some simpler examples, like birds and flowers in the jungle and the way they work together. You of course have heard the example flowers and bees, but I'm just gonna explain to you the hummingbird and the ornithophilus flower relationship. So imagine you're a plant with flowers, and the way to continue to spread your DNA is to, with the help from, example, a bird, pollinate and get pollinated by other individuals of the same species. No one would argue that it isn't good to make sure the bird then touches you as much as possible, right? You would need some nice nectar, but also have your nectarines deep in the flower. You would compete against other plants, and the deeper the flower, the better the reproduction capabilities, or fitness. Survival of the deepest and best nectar, if you would. Now imagine the birds wanting the nectar of the flower to get energy to survive, and to reproduce and pass forward its genes. A long beak would truly facilitate the struggle to reach the sweet nectar. So now we have a simple example of co-evolution, where the beak, through random changes and non-random selection, grows longer, and the plant's flower grows deeper and deeper, through random changes and non-random selection. Not through chance, and most definitely not through a sudden creation, have nature developed something beautiful. This type of development of species can be adapted on so many situations and species in our world. And if people start to see things through the glasses of evolution, it will become obvious that billions of years of trial and error, living and dying, evolving and adapting, can lead to extraordinary things. It will become obvious that absolutely astonishing biological components like the eye is possible, not through throwing a bomb on a junkyard, or introducing non-scientific terms like intelligent design or irreducible complexity to defend the idea of a creator, but by seeing the world as it is. Because, seriously, you are the result of 3.8 billion years of evolutionary success. Act like it.